thanks once again, Arundhati and Team Mythological. I'm really happy to be sharing my journey with you all today. So basically, like Arundhati mentioned, I'm a graduate from the National Institute of Design, but I'm only a 10th pass. I didn't study after my 10th grade, and I was fortunate because I did my fine arts graduation immediately after 10th. You didn't have to do your 12th, 11th, and 12th then. So this um this bug of trying to tell your own stories and doodle them. I used to be very very excited about doodling and making my own comics. But as a kid, I heard from my parents that I was a very destructive kid. I would break stuff, and all new toys and gifts that were given to me, first thing I would break and see whether it works. Obviously it didn't work after that. So um my parents used not take me to guests, others people's homes and all, because I used to ask me thoda ye tod do, and so it was very embarrassing for them. So once they this is all what they've told me. So again, stories which I have heard. So once they bought comic. It was an Amar Chitra Katha comic, and maybe they were thinking ki ye faad ke fek dega, but that didn't happen. And I was totally glued to that comic. The images and text combination of that was so beautiful, and the stories that I got out of that, I was like totally glued to it. Maybe I'm also a little allergic to text probably, so I find more comfort in visuals, but the stories were beautiful. And I must acknowledge that Amar Chitra Katha was like one of the first my introduction to Indian folklore, and mythology. And obviously so many different kinds of stories. And they are sponsors also of this festival, so I'm like a genuine Amar Chitra Katha kid, not to please the sponsor. so so that I so I think as storytellers, I think the fun of the story is always in the teller, of how the teller is going to tell or interpret or narrate that story. Because we've heard the same story so many times, as growing up in India. So all the epics that we've heard, we may have heard so many or seen so many variations of that. So I think the beauty of it, you love certain stories because of the way it was told. And I think growing up, what we see around us or what influences or inspires us, we tend to capture that in our stories. And I think that's true, you know since so many ages. For example, when Valmiki wrote his Ramayana, he must have poured out his own stories or his own version of the heroes in his version. And when maybe Ramcharitmanas, the social times were different, maybe the author put in new versions of it. So every teller has added their own life experiences and to their telling of the story. So I also love doing that. I love to take stuff from my own life and club it with stuff that has inspired me, or things. So the mythological stories and folklore has definitely been a very very big inspiration for me, because I feel folklore, they were all stories about everyday life. There's wisdom in it. uh, Especially whether it is hitopadesha, like say hit upadesh itself is like something for the good, like you're giving a moral to that. And best part is, this is packaged in an entertaining manner, so even though you're learning something, there are morals in it. It doesn't feel like padhai ho rahi hai. It's so exciting and you're absorbing it. So and I was the perfect guinea pig. I absorbed everything. It worked on me. So I think it must have worked on. That's the reason it has probably worked on so many other people also. And I think Panchatantra was own decision making, how to understand people, and about friends, trust, so many things. But the stories were told using everyday situations, everyday people. And even if they were animals, they were actually everyday people from society that we saw. And there were interesting personalities and characters created even from the animal kingdom. So the animal kingdom, it's like they may have a different physical form, but they are like one of us. So this desire to tell stories, like as a studio, as an animation studio, we've been creating a lot of short format content. uh, I would very quickly go into some of our work. Like I would like to share screen. So basically, in our everyday studio life, this is the kind of projects we are doing. Like what you see on screen was a mascot for Channel V. Had created long back. Again, this is from my life. He was my 10th standard maths teacher. Those of you who've seen Channel V earlier might have seen this character. So he had his own show on Channel V, and the channel supported. These are some of the TV commercials we'd done. This was a very old Amaron battery TV commercial. So a lot of short format content. Again, this is a character, a friend of mine who I made the DJ in one of the TV commercials. This was Chulbuli. It's a Clinic Plus commercial. There were some music videos. So I'm just very, very quickly going through. This was Birthday Booth we created for Disney. And this was what Arundhati was speaking about. This was the Buladi anti-AIDS campaign for the West Bengal government, making small puppets out of cloth and foam. And this is again another idea we had pitched to Nickelodeon, made out of watercolor and ink on paper. So basically, a lot of this are some cement ads. This is a small sequence we had done for Tare Zameen Par in Amir Khan's film. Then we'd also worked for the Vodafone Zuzus. So basically, this is the kind of short format work that we've been doing for many years. But this desire to tell a longer story was always there. And again, I'm just going to share my screen once again, and I'm going to take you to the next phase of our work. So yeah, is the screen visible? Okay. So if I were to analyze our work, like I've just made some doodles so that I can, talk over these and take you through these. So we've done pretty well in the short format storytelling, but we are very eager to achieve the same in the longer format. Okay, and we want to produce longer films. We want to tell longer stories. However, as an animation industry, this is a little animation specific, thing in my heart, that as an industry, we've not done too well in doing that in the longer format. And we've not told our stories well enough. As a result, we've let our audiences down. But we can't lose hope, because long format storytelling is where our heart lies, and we are at it. So this is a bit about myself. Like I grew up obviously in India, and I've born and brought up in this country. So just like how a flower absorbs whatever is around it and grows into a unique flower, I think I also absorbed all the crazy stuff. My dad was in the army, so since childhood we've been traveling to different parts of the country. So my growing up years has been like action packed. So I've also absorbed so many things, beautiful things. However, on the television or on the mass media, I do not see those lovely things that I was exposed to as a kid. Moreover, as an industry, this is my view of the Indian animation industry, that we are very, very focusing a lot on doing outsourced projects, or creating films for somebody else, but we are not telling our own stories to our own audiences. And I believe that our own audiences are all across the globe. The Asian Indian audience specifically, I think we are ignoring them. So I feel that when I know my audiences so well, why should I not be making content for them specifically? So my motivation is always to tell those stories that I was so fascinated with to my audiences. And if a global audience enjoys that as well, that's a bonus for me. So with that in mind, we have been working on our feature film. It's a Hindi Desi feature film called Return of the Jungle.
Can you tell us how Panchatantra fits into your scope of things as an animator? What made you look at an old text in that matter?
See, for me, the first fascination was the story, because even a story that impressed me so much when I was a young child, it still impresses me. And I feel it'll still work. It's so contemporary, it's so relevant even today. And in the telling of the story, obviously I'm adding my own tadka, I'm adding my own way, I'm changing certain story moments, like the things that I didn't agree, I probably will not keep, and things that excited me, or some other way of presenting it, I'm putting those in my story. And even Return of the Jungle, it's like a twin story thing. um, there is the children's story and there is the jungle story, and they both go parallel at a certain point. uh, so I think, like, we see ourselves in those stories, and that's what I want to present to the children and their parents today. And the medium of animation, I feel, I am so comfortable using that tool, whether it's acting, whether it's music, whether it's choreography. You can use your characters, the way you can bring them alive, only the medium of animation allows you. So I'm very, very happy telling my stories using this medium.
Oh.
And it's not just folk tale. I would get mythological stories, mythological characters. There's such a huge ocean of all that. um, uh, it's just that animation takes a lot of time to make. So once one story is done, I'm sure there's so many other stuff that we are dying to make.
It's interesting because some people are asking, will you ever look at mythologicals? Because mythologicals, the way we've seen it happening in animation, at least with respect to Indian mythologicals, is left us, wondering whether that's the only way to look at things. Because
Right.
it doesn't appeal. It does appeal to some, but it
Right.
somehow takes away from the story a lot.
Right. Right.
How
I
would
totally.
you approach something like that?
I purely feel that, like an audience, when I soaked in those stories, mythological stories, there are certain highlights which appeal to me. When I'm going to tell those stories again, obviously those highlights are going to shine through, and I would have to tell it my way. I would have to interpret, the interpretation would automatically happen because I'm digesting those stories a certain way. In today's morning, Mahabharat Charcha, there were so many beautiful interpretation, so many stories that even I had never heard of. Um, so I think the use of mythology is not a bad thing. Maybe we just presented it very literally so far. So I think the telling of the story, that craft we need to master. And yes, the use of the tool or the production quality is a secondary thing, but I think how we use, um, what is it that influenced us about these mythological stories, and how we manage to retell. That retelling, I feel, is most important. That's where that uniqueness should be there. And I'm sure the audience, it will work even better because the audience knows the premise. It's not like you need to establish everything from scratch. So they are going to come in curious to see how that particular story which they know is going to be retold. And if it's done beautifully, I'm sure they will accept it, they will enjoy it, and they would want to hear various interpretations of that story.
Oh, it's interesting. Also, there's one more question, Weber. We'd love to know your views about the effectiveness of comics versus films. Are you biased towards any of one of these medium?
No, I myself, I'm a comic book child. Although I am spending more time into films now, but a comic is still as potent as it used to be. I can read it at my own pace. I can enjoy the illustration, soak in the text, soak in the story, and go ahead, come back. So these are two beautiful mediums. I don't think I would go for one over the other. I still read, jump from one to the other even now.
Yeah, and actually, I think the comic moves pretty seamlessly into your say a movie, because it's frame by frame by frame. It kind of gives you that perspective also.
Very true. Like the first stage from a production point of view is like a storyboard.
Yes.
It's almost like a comic,
Yes,
so the two are like cousins.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems as if it's an evolution of the medium in that sense.
Yes.
There's another one. Why did you want to work on Panchatantra, that someone's asked?
It's not only Panchatantra. Like I said, there would be Jataka tales, there would be Hitopadesha, there would be mythological stories. And there could be stories from outside Indian mythology as well. World stories from different parts of the world. But I just want to compile those stories because like whatever I feel is so relevant to the children in the film. I will use that, and I will tell it my way. If I feel that it fits into the context, I will take everything and I'll filter it my way. I will present that essence. So it's not only Panchatantra. Yes, Panchatantra was like a teaching manual, but there are so many other beautiful stories too. And every day, news also today is so many stories.
That's true, absolutely. And like you're saying, the thing is that Panchatantra also is one of the earliest stories to have traveled around the world.
Yes.
It's one story that went from here to the Arab countries, and it went to, Germany, France,
Yes.
and then it's kind of gone all around the world. So in that sense, it is a story that is a good way to begin with.
Yes, and those stories have come back, and we've seen that they've been interpreted in their own unique ways.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people who've been talking to us in Mythological over the last 2 days have been telling us that the beauty of myth, folk tales, and legends is that they are interpreted so many times.
Yes.
And yet they are still valuable to us. There's no purity construct, that you have to continuously live with in that sense.
And as long as those interpreters or the tellers are very truthfully telling it their way, that's what adds, to the entire khazana.
Absolutely. So there's one more question. Making an animation movie is very costly. Do you think it is a viable commerce in India? X1. And why are we lacking so much in making animation movies in India? That's the second part of that.
Okay. So the first question, yes, it is very expensive. But as a studio or as a storytelling unit, that's the only way we'll grow. Like Return of the Jungle is our maiden feature film. We still don't know whether we're going to tell a good story or not. Till we make a film, till we make that mistake, we will not learn. So if it's a mistake, we want to make that quickly. And we are investing every penny from our pocket. We are raising funds through the commercials that we do, that I showed you earlier. So this is the way to go for us. We've been telling small ads, 60 seconders, 30 seconders, but we want to tell 60 minuters, 90 minuters. Can we, because it's a different ball game. I can use silence to communicate a story. I have more time to make an impact on my audience. So it's such a beautiful opportunity, and I want to explore that. If it is expensive, making money is not that difficult, Arundhati. It's easy. Where you put that money is very, very important. So we want to make this film. It is our investment. If it's a failure or a success, we'll know only once the film is done, which will be next year. So that was the first question. What was the second question?
And the second is that I also just went through. Do you think, and why do we not have more animation movies made in India?
Okay. So statistically, almost say 15 years ago, I think so, the first Hanuman feature film was released. I think specifically feature length films have done very, very badly statistically. There were some beautiful films like, Arjuna, the Warrior Prince. There were many, many other, lots of mythological, lots of non-mythological films as well. But on the box office, they were huge losses for their producers. In fact, Disney and Yash Raj, two big Western world and Bollywood world, they combined to create like the biggest flop, which was Roadside Romeo.
Yes.
And it didn't work. It probably was a live action script with just Kutta Billy as the star cast. So it didn't work for many, many reasons. But what we did was we spoiled our name, and so statistically nobody's willing. So when we were so ready to make a feature film, no one was willing to support an Indian or Hindi animation feature film. So like I said, for us there was no other option but to raise funds ourselves. So that's why it's more difficult. We've made it more difficult for us by making not so good films, offering not so good films to our audiences. I think I put that on my slide also.
Yeah, one more thing that always we kind of believe, a lot of people tell us is that animation films are for kids and non-animation films are are for adults. So is that something that affects your kind of filmmaking also?
That thinking definitely affects, but I feel kids are much more mature. They are small sized adults today. Or they were always. We I think we are treating them badly by saying animation is for kids. There are such beautiful animation films that I would love to watch. I will have a paid subscription on Netflix or anything and only watch animation films. I'm sure there are so many kids like me, grown-up kids also, would still subscribe to animation. So it's a myth that animation. Okay, a lot of the children's programming uses that medium. So probably the medium is a bit more frequently used for the children's category, but that's not that the potential of it is not limited. Like if you see Japanese animation films also, the entire country goes to watch a Hayao Miyazaki film, a Studio Ghibli release, or any other film. So I think European films also, such beautiful independent filmmakers. From India also, Gitanjali Rao is one name that comes to mind. Her films have done beautifully, and this for the adult audience as well. So I think the medium of animation is so unique and neutral, innocent, that everybody can consume that. In fact, we grew up on Ek Titli, Anek Titli, the classic Doordarshan.
Totally.
And even our parents, everybody loved it. We were glued to all the films division documentary, those short animated films that were produced.
There's one question. I think the last one that we can take now is this. When I think they're referring to your what you said, that you may look at mythologicals also as potential animated films. Do you think telling these stories through animation would upset audiences? Does that enter your mind when you decide to do something like this?
Nowadays it does, but I know we've already, when we are putting in so much money, why should we do it to hurt someone? We love it and we respect our medium, and for us it's like a penance. We probably spent close to a decade working on this film in installments. Why would we do that just to hurt someone? So but to answer that question, you can never predict. It can be interpreted or misinterpreted, like what we have been discussing. Every story can be interpreted. So people are free to feel happy or feel sad by seeing that. And as a storyteller, we will also get that feedback only when it reaches our audience. So I'll probably find out, when Return of the Jungle is done, there are many, pieces in the film which I feel could be misinterpreted, but we are very truthful in a way that, that is our way of doing it. That's how we want to share it. And I'm very curious whenever, my learning or our learning as a studio will happen only when our audience sees it and gives their verdict.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's it. We've kind of reached the end of our questions, and if there are any more, we'll take them. We'll take them later. And thank you, Vaibhav. Thanks from all of us at Mythological for being there and doing this for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you to your team. I've been watching, the shows, like so amazing. It's like lovely to hear stories from all over. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.